Hi, I'm Dr. Bertice Berry, and I want to tell you a story. When the pandemic of the coronavirus hit the United States, I was at a conference, and there were tons of people, thousands of people coming for this conference. And I kept saying, I don't know how they're going to have this thing. It doesn't make sense that they're having this thing. Are you serious about this thing? And we got there, and they said, oh, yeah, we're having it. I was like, well, I don't know. And the next morning, we were told, no, they're not having this thing, and we should go back home. So we got in our car and drove back home. And the first question I asked was, what am I going to do? All of my work was being canceled. I was getting email and notices and phone calls saying, this is canceled, that's canceled, this has been moved, this is canceled, this is canceled. People were trying to move things to December, and then they were moving them again and moving it. But we knew in February, we knew in March, things were not going to be as they were. So when I asked that question, what am I going to do? I could hear something in my spirit say, wrong question, ask again. And so I pondered what the question should be. And then it became apparent. What do I know? And what does my community need? When I got back home, I took out a paper and pen, and I began to write all the things that I knew extremely well. And then it came down to a few things. I had some skills, I had some abilities, I had some knowledge. I knew that if I contracted the coronavirus, I most likely would not make it because of underlying conditions. And so what I knew was important to know because it would be what I would leave. And do I want to leave here with whatever it is I think I know, or do I want to share it? I knew my community was in need. I asked the question, and then I wrote the answers. I wrote down everything that I thought I knew really, really, really well. And then I got down to a few things. I knew how to inspire hope. I had come from a condition of hopelessness, and I had been able to find light in the darkness, and I knew how to share that with others. 3 years prior, I had learned how to sew, and so I said, well, I'll use this gift, this skill, this ability to help somebody else. And I knew anything to do with race, diversity, equity, and inclusion inside and out. I'd spent decades studying the history of systemic racism in America, and I knew that people were looking at the problem the wrong way. We were looking for racist when we needed to find out what was going on in our system. And I looked at that and I crossed it out. I said, few people are going to really want to deal with the real underlying issues in a pandemic. That night I went to sleep and I was asking that question, what does my community need? And the next morning, like the proverb says, when a person seeks their purpose, the universe conspires to answer. I got the answer. Someone reached out to me and said, I don't think I'm going to make it. I'm going to check out. I'm just too depressed. And then shortly after that, I heard from someone else, and then someone else, and someone else. And these 5 people cried out to me saying, can you help me? I feel hopeless. I decided to start recording messages for them. I was singing, I was dancing around the house, I was doing little things. And then it just came down to stories. And then a 6th person who was in a hospital, not expected to make it, on a ventilator from coronavirus. Her daughter was sharing through FaceTime the stories and inspiration that I was sharing. And then when she came off the ventilator, she called me and said, you have to continue. God wants you to continue. I need you to continue. I heard your voice and I knew I could make it because I heard your voice. And then she went back on the ventilator. And after 72 days in a hospital, she made it out. And she said, keep going. Keep going. During that time, Ahmaud Arbery was killed senselessly just down the road from where I live. And suddenly friends were saying, hey, can you help us through this race stuff? And so I began to just share stories. I knew that telling a story from my life, rather than telling others what they need to do, would be much, much more effective, because we are all wired for narrative. We just are. And then others would write back the stories that were awakened in them. So we started a stories group where people could share these stories together. And it's happening. And other things have come from this. So that question of, what am I going to do, makes no sense. It makes no sense because I'm not in control. I can control what I know and how I share it. I've learned so much during this time. I've learned how to ignore the naysayers. It's really a skill. I've learned how to respond when I need to and be still when I don't. I've learned how to dig deep into the well of darkness to find the light for myself and for others. And I've learned how to connect to soulmates I would have never met had it not been for this tragic time that is not over. And I've learned what really is important. I love you.